All right. Well, while we give a little bit of time for the late joiners to make their way in here, um, just so you know, I am your favorite simmer time consumer. With me is everyone's favorite whatever you do, Sap.
Presentation creator, but just call me anything that you want.
All right, Susan. So for
Uh,
the first time in a few seasons, we are going to do a live Twitch award show. Normally, as you know, we've been doing this through the forum with some gifts and all that sort of thing. We thought we'd change it up a little bit this year. Sap and Adam, the Adam with the numbers, not the Adam with the S, did a really great job putting this together. So thank you guys for that. We really appreciate all the work.
yeah, Adam was a huge help in this process, creating all of the SIGs for us, and Infinite helping with the background template.
Very cool. So yeah, we're excited. Season 9 awards. We had some really interesting stuff this year. A lot of changes, a lot of shakeups. I think, at least for the eyeball test on where the stats turned out to be. We had obviously big changes on the defensive side of the ball with how schemes had changed a lot between prior seasons and season 9. A lot of young quarterbacks coming up and starting to make a name for themselves. Same thing with some of these wide receivers. Running backs, really cool year, and so excited to kind of see how this turns out and who wins what.
Yeah, running backs did phenomenal this year. Mainly Darren Smallwood and Reg McWorthy. Um, they really showed out and really showed that dedicated run attack is possible in this league.
Yep. All right, so I think we've waffled around enough. I think most who are watching are going to be in by now. If y'all are keeping an eye out, you can ask in Twitch. And yeah, Adam, you're right. It is season 8. I don't know why it says season 9 on top of this. But yeah, if you have some questions, ask in Twitch chat. I'm watching, Sap's watching, and we're going to keep an eye on it and hopefully give you all a good show. So let's kick it off. So, Ultimate's winner. I know this is a tough one to figure out. There's a lot of good opportunities and chances here, but big surprise. It was the Rays, in case you weren't paying attention the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, the Rays were absolutely amazing this season. The NSFC was a little bit weaker. However, the Yeti stepped up this season, and the Hawks made a late season run to the playoffs that really threw a curveball into things. But and they were consistent across everything. Number one in both points for and points against, with the second best defense in the league.
I mean, you call it second best. Honestly, I'd call it first best, really. Points are all that matters in the end. Sure, you got some yardage, and the Otters were number one in yards, maybe fifth in offense. I don't know. Call it what it is. I think the Rays were the best team, and they proved it. You got to score points. You got to stop them from scoring points. That's the end of it all. And these guys have been fantastic for so many seasons, and a couple times, ended up not making it all the way, mistakes in the playoffs, and so they got one well deserved. And honestly, this probably should have been their second or third. Great team.
Yeah, the Rays they have always choked in the playoffs, and it's kind of been a running joke in the league. But now that they finally have raised the Ultimate Trophy themselves, I think all that has washed away, and they're ready to dominate for the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, man. Kennedy, Axelson, Rainey led off one hell of a good offense. Defensive side of the ball, there's so many playmakers that you don't know where to start. They got Jace Tuck on the defensive line. They got Boss Tweed in the linebacker core. They got Marcus Kane. They've got who's that young rookie safety they just got? Man, that guy's good. Of course, they got Dermott on the corner side. Harrison, that's the name of that safety. So real great defense.
Yeah, and they got the two highest TP earners in the league with Boss Tweed and Dermont LaBelle, with you with you
uh,
right behind them.
no, I've earned more than Boss Tweed. Thank you very much. Barely, but I have.
Oh wow! Congratulations on that.
He had me. We've been going back and forth for seasons. I'm ahead of him right now, but not by much. Anyways, moving on. Congratulations, Wraiths. Great job. So let's look at some rookies. Defensive Rookie of the Year. We got two linebackers. Mason Brown from the Otters, Ricky Romero from the Yeti. Both guys real good. Both finished around 300, 350-ish TPE there for most of the season. Both played very similar roles on their defenses. I'm going to throw in an honorable mention here. I don't, obviously the names you see are going to be what people voted for, not necessarily everyone that was qualified. And I mentioned him a second ago. Harrison, safety on the Rays, also had an incredible year, and I think deserves an honorable mention here. He may not have gotten a vote, but still, fantastic performance.
Yeah, when I was looking at these defensive rookies, um, I thought it was going to be a close race between Brown, Romero, and Harrison, with Gambino kind of an outside chance. He
It's
didn't
true,
perform.
Gambino did fantastic on the defensive line as well.
Yeah, he didn't perform quite as well as he needed to get in the conversation, but he was right there with them.
Yeah, and these guys, Brown and Romero, I tell you, their stats could not be much closer this season. I mean, we're talking these guys were flip a coin as far as which one's the true winner. They were that close, and both did really, really well for their teams. But in the end, the winner is Mason Brown for the Otters with 8 votes. He managed to take it. I love what he did this season. Obviously, he's my teammate. I'd say he outperformed me really at the linebacker position. 9 sacks, 6 tackles for a loss, 94 tackles, couple picks in there. Great stuff all around.
Yeah, and he was just consistent across the board, just doing just about everything. The only thing that he's missing is some sort of score and a fumble recovery. But other than that, he performed like he was a veteran in this league.
Yeah, he was lining up at left outside linebacker. Um, outside linebacker, you getting those TFLs really good at shutting down the run. The guy's faster than hell with 90 speed, earning good TPE, so really fantastic. Love to have him on my team. It's gonna be tough competing against him though, as he starts getting better and I start getting worse.
And there's always these people that are talking about, oh, he's not a true rookie. But we've discussed this enough where your first snap in the NSFL is your rookie year, and he put quite the show on this year.
Yeah, on a tough defense to earn points on, he did a good job. So hats off to him, and great job to also to Romero, Gambino, Harrison, all those defensive rookies. Man, we had some really great stuff. Offensive Rookie of the Year. This was a little bit more of an interesting one. There weren't a ton of offensive rookies. A lot of them stayed down. And then you got this Vigo Squanch guy. I don't know what a QR is, but obviously he's the only one out there doing it.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's my mistake right there. I didn't know if I want to name him a QB or a wide receiver, since the Outlaws like to throw in some Wildcats every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, Mark Grau, he was consistent most of the season. Vigo Squanch, he had some great games, but also I believe he had 2 games where he was just shut out, no catches, no yards. And Balthar Crindy, again, just consistent like Mark Grau.
Yeah, it's something to keep in mind with these guys, especially on the Outlaws. Um, King Bronco threw for the highest completion percentage ever recorded in the NSFL this year. And I think these two guys, these two rookies, had a lot to do with that. I mean, they were catching the ball. They weren't dropping it. It was a lot of short stuff. They were dinking and dunking all over the place. But the Outlaws were accurate. And, of course, King Bronco being peak of his career is part of that. But I'm also not holding either of these rookies back for that. And, of course, Grau on the Yeti switched from wide receiver to running back. Still actually got some good receptions in there as well. Did a great job getting yardage. So all three were fantastic. This was a tough one to call. And the winner of that one is Vigo Squanch. Edged out Mark Grau by a little bit. Crindy only got 1 vote. Again, though, it's a close one, but Squanch did fantastic. Almost 1,000 yards, just shy of it, 936. 5 touchdowns, 13.2 yards per catch. Not bad at all considering how short their offense was. A lot of dink and dunks. Being able to perform like that really did a good job. So happy to see that guy coming out swinging.
Yeah, he did phenomenal this year, and especially with the Outlaws kind of starting a rebuild after their the trade that went down a couple seasons, which lost them a lot of draft stock. Um,
Do you mean that
but
one
with
where they traded 2 first-round picks for an inactive linebacker?
Yeah, and I think they also traded away Rainey, who might be the next big thing in the running game this league.
Oh, I think I've heard that name. Yeah.
But I mean, that's in the past. The Outlaws, I believe they have a first round pick this year for the first time in 3 years, maybe. So hopefully they can get Vigo some help, and hopefully he can continue to be the great wide receiver that he was this year.
Yeah, they're gonna need to find a the next thing after King Bronco, but whoever comes in, he's gonna know he's got a couple good pairs of hands with Grindy and Squanch.
Yeah, definitely. Outlaws are definitely looking up right now.
All right, top performance of the year. This is obviously for a single game performance, and we've got 3 running backs. Help me out here. I don't remember what these performances were.
I'm currently pulling it up right now, so give me 1 second.
All right, we'll see what we can come up with. In the meantime, obviously, the couple of these guys are names you've known and loved for a while. Mackworthy, season 1 running back. Owen Taylor, don't remember what season he was, 4 or 5, something like that. Probably 5. Carter Bush, pretty new guy. I think this is only his second season. Um, all on teams that did, Hawks did pretty good. Liberty did pretty good, just outside the playoffs there for the Liberty. Hawks made it at 7-7. Outlaws, of course, in the middle of a rebuild, but Mackworthy did real well. I know both through on the ground and through the air. Let's see how they did in these games.
All right, so Owen Taylor, in week 13, he had a 5 total touchdown game, 4 on the ground,
Woo,
1 in the
buddy.
air,
Yeah, that's all
and
we need to know right there. 5 touchdowns.
126 yards.
Damn.
Whereas in week 10, Carter Bush, 200 total yards with a touchdown, and still looking for Reg Mackworthy here.
You're killing me.
I'm sorry.
It's cool. I got him. Looks like Reg Mackworthy combined for about 150-ish yards, 3 touchdowns, 8 catches, 31 rushing attempts in week 2.
Yeah, I mean, Reg Mackworthy was a great middle ground between what both Taylor and Bush did, getting the high amount of yards with a good amount of touchdowns.
Agreed. All right, let's see what our decision was. Carter Bush. They went for the yards.
Yeah, in this league, it's hard to break over 150 yards, let alone 200 yards.
Yeah, pretty good performance overall. Carter Bush really had a fantastic season. Coming from just like not doing much last season, this season just exploded. Of course, they lost a lot of playmakers this season, had some trades, so Carter Bush in many ways became the only game in town. But man, he made the best of it. Had a really good season.
Yeah, if we had a comeback player of the year award, he would definitely be up there in consideration.
We do have a award for that.
All right, well, he should be up for consideration for that because
I think he's nominated.
But yeah, he did phenomenal this year, and hopefully he can continue that.
Oh, looks, Adam here thinks that Rainey should have got it with the 5 TDs. I can't argue with that too much. 5 touchdowns is a hell of a game. They're close though. 1 vote decided it.
Yeah, it's all up to the voters here, and obviously the people love the yards more than touchdowns.
I said Rainey, didn't I? I meant Taylor. Yeah. It is what it is. That's. Oh no, it's not a joke. Oh, I'm sorry. He says it's a joke. Well, life's a bitch. Sorry, Adam. All right, defensive player of the year. Couple good options here. So, this is weird. Don't we normally do position players before we do this?
We sometimes do, but
okay, changing it up.
We got this list before we got the other list, so
No
we're going
we're gonna
by that order.
So, yeah, both these guys killed it this season. Boss Tweed led the league in sacks. I think he had 14. I think there was one other guy with 14, and next closest to that was about 10. And of course, as a linebacker, he managed to throw a ton of tackles in there. I'm pretty sure he led the league in tackles. Had a couple TFLs, lots of PDs, had a safety in there, some fumble recoveries, just a little bit of everything for Tweed. And this is a guy who was a running back, changed to linebacker, had some great running back seasons. Glad to see him really, clicking as a linebacker real well. And then Oaks, younger guy on an up and coming team, he killed it in interceptions this season. 6 interceptions, 8 sacks, ton of tackles, 84 tackles. So both these guys did real well, man. I mean, this could go either way.
Yeah, and just kind of going over what you said earlier, Tweed was actually number 2 in tackles by just 1 tackle, and he was tied for first with Hendricks for sacks. He also got a safety this year and 2 forced fumbles. So he was just all over the place on defense.
Yeah, fantastic. And both these guys play on pretty good defenses. The Wraiths is obviously a bit of an older defense, but they still got a lot of really good guys who, good at just about everything. He's got a great secondary behind him. He's got a good defensive line in front of him. Oaks is still stacked defense. It's a bit younger, but every bit is good. They didn't have the points and the yards like the Wraiths defense did, but still did fantastic. He's playing at free safety, and man, he feasted. Good stuff on both these guys. This is a coin flip to me.
Yeah, both these teams made it to the Ultimates, and defense is the reason why. And if you can't stop anyone from scoring, you can't win the game. And both these guys were big parts of that.
All right, and it goes to Boss Tweed. Again, I can't be mad at either choice. Really fantastic stuff, and great season for him. Got the Ultimates trophy. Got the Defensive Player of the Year. So congratulations. Both these guys did great, and I can tell you, as speaking as someone who plays in the same conference as Oaks, I am not going to be excited for him coming back next season even stronger. Tweed, like some of these other season one guys, is getting weaker. Oaks is only going to get stronger.
Yeah, everything that you said is correct. I mean, Boss Tweed was a force, but Oaks, he's going to be in this conversation just about every year.
Of course, I'm not ruling out Tweed next year. Also, I mean, he's good, and he's going to keep earning. So, great job, both these guys. Offensive Player of the Year. Oh man. Okay, so we got a quarterback and a running back. Now, of course, I think we are all, in some ways, a little fatigued about seeing Mike Boss up here every damn year. But he's been a fantastic quarterback his whole career. Done a real great job. Led the league in yards again. Great performance on passer rating, all that good stuff. Smallwood, on the other hand, this is the first time we've seen him up on this screen. So he came out of nowhere, joined the second line, and just destroyed it on that offense. I mean, in a lot of ways, that offense ran through him in those early downs and did fantastic. So, two very different players that we're seeing here.
Yeah, Smallwood. So he started off as a wide receiver in the season 2 draft. I drafted somewhere in the 50s, so he wasn't like a high prospect or whatever. And he started off really well as a wide receiver, but once he switched to running back, he was just blowing everyone out of the water. I believe last year he led the league in touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. And this year he is right on the top, missing it by 2 to Rainey.
Yeah, he did miss a few to Rainey, but let's also remember, I think Smallwood caught a few also. Not 100% on that, but I'm pretty sure Smallwood caught a couple of those touchdowns. Let's see. Oh, yeah, he got 2. So he had 18 touchdowns from scrimmage, ton of yards. He got 351 receiving yards, and I don't remember how many rushing yards he had. It was a lot. And then, of course, Mike Boss just doing Mike Boss things. So let's see who won. Ooh, Smallwood by a pretty big margin. Yeah, I mean, the fact is, Mike Boss did fantastic, but he wasn't that much better than, an Avon Bloxdale. Smallwood, it seemed like no one was close. Rainey had the touchdowns, but he did not have the yards per carry or the total yards. Mackworthy had the yards, but didn't have the touchdowns. Smallwood had all of it.
Yeah, like you were saying and what I was saying earlier, Smallwood is just amazing this season, all over the place. And Mike Boss, he's been consistent over his career, minus maybe season one. Um, but I believe a lot of people are happy that a running back can finally take home this award.
Yeah, he did a great job. His coach there in New Orleans did a great job getting him involved, getting the right pieces around him on the line and everything, using the right scheme. Fantastic all around. I mean, really great season for him. So happy to see that.
Yeah, one hell of a free agency pickup there.
All right, breakout player of the year. I think this is the one you were referring to earlier as the comeback player of the year.
Yep, exactly. Carter Bush, and he came out of nowhere. I think he was back up to Damian Croach last year, and now this year he just blew everyone out of the water. And of course, Borkus and Rainey did phenomenal for their teams as well. Rainey leading running backs with touchdowns on the ground, and Borkus just doing a lot better than his season last year.
A lot better, I think, is an understatement. Borkus threw 13 touchdowns and 10 interceptions last year. This year, 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So significantly better. I mean, last year I think was about a 73 passer rating, and this season a 93. He was just under Axelson in passer rating. Obviously, that's not the greatest stat in the world, but it's a pretty decent one. Um, so he did really fantastic. And Robbie Rainey, same thing. He said touchdowns, touchdowns, touchdowns. Last year, Axelson got all the carries on the goal line and was just running them all in. This year, they turned it over. They gave it to Rainey, and he did fantastic. That man is a goal line back. And we've already talked about Carter Bush plenty. He maybe had 600 scrimmage yards last season. This year, he's like 1,400, something ridiculous. Killed it. And the winner this season is Carter Bush. And these are some close votes. I mean, it was right in there. So, this is one of those things that could have gone either way, depending on just how you wanted to look at. I can't fault people for wanting to vote Carter Bush. The amount of yards of scrimmage he got, and he got it on a team that had really been gutted in a lot of ways. Did a great job.
Yeah, for a player that is on a team that's rebuilding, that's losing their quarterback this year, he really showed out and showed that you shouldn't count out Philly regardless of what happens to the team.
Yep, and next year, whatever quarterback is starting for Philly, probably going to be Zobot Slinger 1 is what I'm thinking. Um, they're going to have at least know they got a good running back to work with, and he's a receiving back, he can catch the ball, do a lot of short out routes, that sort of thing. So pretty good stuff. Also, there are some honorable mentions, I think, for this position. These are the guys that got votes, Bush, Rainey, and Maximus, but other people really did fantastic this season and went from, kind of middle of the pack or nobodies to really fantastic. I think Arbanisipi Jr. Definitely deserves a shout out. He really did amazing this season, arguably the best or second best defensive lineman. And Tegan Atwell, same thing. She went from kind of a middling cornerback, switched to wide receiver, and was, I think, I want to say top 5, top 6 in yards. Not a ton of touchdowns, but the potential is there. Great yards per catch. So a lot of really good breakout players from what I've seen.
Yeah, and I would also say Carlito Crush, and he was a tight end for most of last year. Uh, Actually, you know what? I think he switched to wide receiver last year. But I mean, he had 1,200 yards this year on an absolutely stacked Otters offense. So kudos to him as well.
All right, so up next here we've got our GMs of the year. Uh, 3 teams were nominated. Second line, Wraiths and Yeti all did really well. Obviously, Wraiths winning the championship. Second line going from outside of playoff contention for a couple of years, and pretty low end team when they were still the Legion, coming up and really doing extremely well, knocking the Otters out of the Ultimates contention, getting to the big game, and the Yeti going from 0-30 to winning 6 games in one season. Really big turnaround for these teams, and the Rays, of course, winning their first championship with a really powerhouse team.
Yeah, and a couple people are saying that the Yeti shouldn't even be in this conversation. But when you lose 32 games in a row, anything is an improvement. And most people were pegging them at 3 or 4 wins this season, and they got to 6. So they definitely improved, and a lot of that falls on the GMs.
So the winner for season 8 is the second line, Bovo, with almost all of the votes. I don't think he has a co, so I think it's just him.
Yeah, Bobo is a great GM. I think he's always drafted well, and then this season bringing in all those free agents, and he did a phenomenal job building that team.
Yep, developed a culture that people want to be a part of. Can't fault him for that. Really good stuff. Don't like being in the same conference as him. It's going to be scary for the next couple seasons, but you know, good to have some good competition there. And then we've got the most dedicated member of the NSFL. A couple nominations here. So we've got Araman. You guys know him as Robbie Rainey in the head office. We've got Benson Bailey. That's Benson Bailey. Also in the head office, we have our own favorite Dermot Lavelle, commissioner. And then we've got some asshole time consumer. I'm not really sure who he is.
Yeah, and all he does is turn on Twitch and then walk away as music plays and the game goes on. But I mean, all these guys are deserving. Head office cannot be underappreciated. I mean, they do so much for this league, and commissioner being the leader of the head office and making everything go well. All these guys, regardless of where they fall with the votes, they deserve the recognition.
I'm going to throw, again, it's just what I do. I'm going to throw a couple honorable mentions in there. Zercap on the Rays, head updater, doing a great job keeping those updaters in line. That is a thankless job, and God, we need them, and they're really doing a great job. Also, I think Bobo's done a fantastic job with the media team as well as being a fantastic GM. Both those guys great GMs. Bovo's done so much grading on the media team, so they may have gotten votes, but I definitely put them as honorable mentions for most dedicated. And this asshole wins it.
Yeah, this asshole named Time Consumer. I mean, he's just a phenomenal guy to work with, regardless if it's in the GM chat or working on streaming duties. Um, I think you and him would get along very well.
I don't know. I think he's an asshole know-it-all.
To each their own.
Most Outstanding Player of the Year. So this is our MVP award that is voted on by the players. So not by HO and GMs and all that good stuff. So this is the player vote. A couple big options here. Obviously, we talked about Smallwood plenty. Really fantastic season. Reg Mackworthy did a lot of similar stuff. Great yards. Good stuff out of the backfield. Not as many touchdowns, but also had a worse offense to work with by a long way. And Boss Tweed just dominating it for the Rays, sitting there in the linebacker core and part of a really fantastic defense, not allowing a lot of points. So all really good players this year.
Yeah, and we've talked about each of these players already with awards. They're just phenomenal players that just really stood out this year. But these guys aren't the only ones that should be recognized this year for how well they played.
Darren Smallwood with the winner. I can't argue with that. I personally cast my vote for him. I can't argue with 18 touchdowns. It is what it is. 18 touchdowns and 1,700 yards.
Yeah, and he's just been phenomenal. And in a league where it seems like passing is ruling over everything, he comes through with a phenomenal rushing season. Hopefully, this allows or forces GMs to think about the running game much more than they used to in the past.
Yeah, I can tell you. I know exactly what their strats are because I input them, and they went heavy rush, and it was shocking, and it worked. And then we've got our MVP. Can't talk about these two guys enough. really fantastic performance by both of these guys. Really good stuff. Flip a coin. You want offense, you want defense. Obviously, Smallwood was a little flashier, I think. As far as his stats, it's a little harder to quantify what a linebacker adds. Sure, he has 106 tackles, but what did those tackles stop? How many of those saved a touchdown, that sort of thing. How many of those are right there on the goal line? So those it can be a little difficult with us, but you can't go wrong either way with these two guys.
Yeah, I remember someone saying something earlier today that pretty much all of the defensive positions are team player position. You don't get all these gaudy stats unless you get lucky. And sometimes you go 7 interceptions in a season, no interceptions the next season. Part of it's luck, and part of it's just allowing your teammates to get those stats. So it being a defensive player means a lot to all the teams, regardless of if your stats are showing up or not.
Agree with you. Let's see what we got. There he is again, the purple man. Darren Smallwood is cleaning up this season. What's he got so far? Most outstanding, MVP, and offensive player of the year. Doing fantastic. And we haven't even gotten to running back of the year yet.
Yeah, like I've been saying, like you've been saying, phenomenal year from this man from season 2.
Oh, looks like Asipi has joined us in the chat here. He's complaining he didn't get Defensive Player of the Year. Smallwood didn't get a ring. Blah 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 blah. All sorts of good stuff. Sippy, I just want to let you know. I said that you were an honorable mention for Breakout Player of the Year, even though no one voted for you. I felt you deserved a shout out. All right, so we've got the top quarterback. This is a tough one, man. Axelson, obviously, it's hard to look at just his QB stats because of how much he does on the ground. He even with Rainey going ahead and vulturing 18 touchdowns from him, he still got like 6, 7 rushing touchdowns in there. Really good, really good passer rating. Mike Boss doing his normal thing, just throwing crap loads of yards. Passer rating, he was barely above Blocksdale for top passer rating. Blocksdale was a little more efficient, turned the ball over a little less. And even guys that we're not talking about in here, I mean, he may have been voted for, but King Bronco, again, had the most accurate season in history this season. There are a lot of short yards and that sort of thing. He didn't have a whole lot of offense to work with, but this year was a tough one in the quarterback position. There were so many good people.
Yeah, and you got to figure out like how much is this on the quarterback on how great they are, and how much is it on the people that he's throwing to. All these quarterbacks have great wide receivers, um, but I mean they're still phenomenal players regardless. Ackelson has Kennedy and Cook. Um, Blocksdale had Willie and Leclerc, and Boss had Phelps, Crush, Atwell, and Westfield. So I mean, they've got a lot of help on their offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, really good stuff. I'm really happy to see a lot of these guys doing as well as they did. So let's see what we got. Oh, Mike Boss again. Yards win.
Yeah, we're waiting for the reign of Mike Boss to end. He's been cleaning up the quarterback of the year, Ultimates trophies, MVPs for the past. It seems forever.
This is his 5th season in a row that he's thrown for more than 5,000 yards. It has happened 8 times in the NSFL's history. There 3 quarterbacks have gotten it 1 time, and Mike Boss has gotten it 5 times.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. We might be calling him the GOAT quarterback, but I can only wonder if another quarterback would even be able to touch his numbers in the future.
You know, Blocksdale maybe, depending on how long he goes, could get close to those career numbers, and Borkus might. Borkus he started as a true rookie and is obviously off to a pretty good start, so he very likely could end up challenging Mike Boss around season 15, something like that for these career statistics. But glad to see Mike Boss, get one more. Season 9 is gonna be his last season, most likely. So we'll see what he can do then. All right, real tough one here. Top running back. So we got Smallwood, and looks like no one else was voted for. Of course, we can't. We've talked about him enough, but real great running backs this season. Carter Bush did great. Rainey did great, and Reg McWorthy did great. But there you go, landslide. Every single person voted for Darren Smallwood, and well deserved. Great season.
Yeah, and I don't think this is against like any of the other running backs in the league. Smallwood was just that great this season that none of the other running backs could get even a vote. But phenomenal seasons by all of them.
Yeah, agreed. We got another real close one here for top tight end.
Yeah,
Now,
with Paul DeMiro, I mean, there have been other tight ends in the league with Carlito Crush, but he switched to wide receiver. I know McPoyle on the Rays and La Alto on the Hawks. They had pretty good seasons, but DeMiro has just been otherworldly the past couple seasons.
yeah, it is what it is. 10 votes. Did fantastic. Did Liberty for a while. Was traded to the second line near the end. Really did very well for both of them. Helped be one of those pieces that were managed to get second line to the Ultimates. Did a great job in the playoffs. So good stuff all around. But he needs to watch out. There's some young up and coming tight ends. You mentioned Alto. He looks like he's pretty good. There's a tight end or two that's come up in these next few drafts. So I think it's going to be a more competitive position pretty soon. But fantastic career. Going to be known as probably the best tight end of all time for quite a bit.
Yeah, and just looking at the award winner list right here, New Orleans is cleaning up. Six of the awards have gone to them. Granted, four of them have been Smallwood, but I mean, they also got tight end of the year and GM of the year, so
Yeah,
everything's looking up for them.
yeah, great team, great competitors. Really excited and not excited to be in their conference for the next couple seasons. All right, and then we have the top wide receiver. I gotta say, this was the closest of all of them from what I've saw. We got 3 names on our screen here. Really, it could have gone 5 different ways. Kennedy, fantastic yards per catch. He only got about 60 some odd catches, but managed to get a ton of yards off of it. Really efficient stuff. And Leclerc, similar thing. Not a lot of catches, maybe about 60 some odd. Also got a ton of touchdowns. I think I did the math. I think 20% of all the catches he made, he scored a touchdown on. He was a touchdown machine. The guy was in the red zone, getting really long catch and runs. Great stuff. Uh, Trey Willie did a really great job as well. He's been a fantastic receiver for a few years. He led the league in yards. Pretty good yards per catch. Lots of touchdowns. And even people like, obviously we don't want to hear about Westfield. He's won it plenty of times. We're done with him. 13 touchdowns, did a great job. And Fox North, 11 touchdowns, 1,200 yards, did a great job. No votes, but still, you can get anyway. 5 guys who did really great.
Yeah, I mean, it was really even at the top of the boards, and there's, if, if I'm counting correctly, 12 wide receivers that got over 1,000 yards. I'm gonna have to recount that, but no, everyone up there did really well. And I'm surprised that Westfield isn't up there. I mean, he was fourth in receiving yards, but tied for first in touchdown.
Yeah, I'm
Whereas,
not. I'm not surprised. It's fatigue. He's won so many times. He's been at the top so many times. When he isn't completely at the top again, people are like, well, he's lost steps. Not a big deal. It's someone else is better this time, and that's okay. I get it.
yeah, someone else has to win the award sometime. So let's get to this vote.
Trey Willie. Yeah, good stuff, man. He had a fantastic year. Like I said, led the league in yards by a good margin, about 110 yards above the next guy. He had a good amount of catches, 81 receptions, so a little more than Kennedy or LeClaire, who managed to get a lot done with fewer catches. But there's something else to be said for just being that guy who is there and reliable, and you can chuck him the ball and get stuff done. Really good option for Bloxdale, and also something to be said. Two of these guys on the list were Bloxdale's targets. That's a big deal. So I think a lot has to go to that quarterback as well. I love Trey Willie. He's a great guy and had a fantastic season.
Yeah, everything that you said, I just want to echo. Trey Willie was amazing this year. I I think top five in average yards per catch and top 10 in reception. So just phenomenal all around.
Yeah. All right. So we've got the top defensive back of the year. A lot of guys here, and so we've just about everyone to choose from. So yeah, I know, Asipi, shut up. A lot of guys did great. Bly, Delacourt, Lavelle, Oaks. So we got three corners and a safety. Delacour obviously did fantastic interceptions. I think he led the league in interceptions with a six-ish. Dermott got a few less interceptions, but he managed to take two to the house. And also, Dermott's a great kick returner. Bly, pretty solid with just about everything. Good tackles, good interceptions, good pass deflections. And Oaks, he's got sacks, he's got interceptions. The guy's a real disruptor for offenses. Couple, and obviously, like I said, I like to have some honorable mentions. Philippe Carter led the league in passes defensed this year. May not have had some votes, but really did a great job as a defender. So Joggen Flaherty, same thing. He did real well with pass defenses. So good people all around.
Yeah, all these guys are just phenomenal athletes. But I mean, we saw it earlier with the defensive player of the year is back and forth between Boss Tweed and Blackford Oaks. So I'm pretty sure I know where the voters went with this.
I'm pretty sure I
But
do too, since and everyone else does on Twitch, since I accidentally clicked over to it at first.
yeah,
So
yeah, hashtag leaked.
yeah,
But
big surprise coming up. But I mean, really, how surprised were you? I mean, there's the guy right there. He did fantastic.
yeah, absolutely phenomenal job this year. Again, second liner cleaning up the awards with number 7 on the night.
Yeah, so what was it? Six picks, tied with Delacour for that, but also throwing 8 sacks to go with it, just because, in case picking the ball off isn't scary enough for a quarterback, he's also trying to take your head off. Blackford Oaks, man, love this guy. Really killing it. And then we've got the top linebacker. Real tough one this year.
Yeah, again, like running back of the year with Darren Smallwood. Both these guys were going after the best player of the league. So it's really no question that Boss Tweed should be the top linebacker this year.
I agree with you. 14 sacks, couple tackles for a loss, lots of touchdowns, a pick, or not a pick, but a safety, pass defense. I mean, great stuff everywhere. I do like my honorable mentions, though. I just want to throw out a couple names. Ishigawa on the Yeti. He may have only had 10 sacks and not 14, but 6 tackles for a loss. Really, you think about it, a tackle for a loss and a sack, kind of the same thing. Sacks usually tend to be a little deeper, and tackles for loss usually a little closer to the line of scrimmage, but both are so important. They're disrupting plays. They get in there. And Julian O'Sullivan on the second line, who are obviously the defense to pay attention to this year. Only 8 sacks, but also 10 tackles for a loss. Got a pick in there. So really some great linebacker performance. Even Micah Hendricks. Get this. 9 sacks, 20 pass deflections as a linebacker.
That is absolutely phenomenal. I want to give a shout out to Sharpay and Harrison. Sharpay on the second line and Harrison on the Sabercats. They had phenomenal seasons, both with over 100 tackles, 6 sacks each, and each got a couple interceptions as well as pass deflections. So overall, just a great year for linebackers.
Agreed. So there it is, guys. Boss Tweed. I mean, it's hard to argue, and obviously the votes show it. He was the man. 14 sacks, 2 for a loss, over 100 tackles. Hey, you can't beat that. That's what you need, and a key part of the best defense in the league last season.
Most definitely.
All right, here's the position that all of one person in the chat has really been worried about. Top defensive lineman of the year. Now, God, these two could not be much closer. So what do we have, right? We got a Sippy, 11 sacks, 11 tackles for a loss. Then we've got Kurt Hendricks. Is it Kurt or Kendrick? I don't remember. Let's call it Kurt Hendricks. 14 sacks, 1 tackle for a loss. So Hendricks had the sacks, didn't have the tackles for a loss. Sippy, few less sacks, not a ton less. A lot more tackles. Sippy also managed to get a safety and force a couple of turnovers. Both are technically defensive ends. However, Hendricks spent his entire season starting at defensive tackle. Most don't know that. Sippy did spend his season as defensive end. I mean, it is what it is. The stats point to it. Sippy did better by a good margin. Those tackles for a loss are significant. They shut down the running game. As we saw, running game is bigger this year by a good amount. He did a fantastic job. So good for him. He doesn't have that fourth ring that he really seems to be wanting. And, it is what it is. Sorry, Sippy. Maybe you left the wrong team. But he's doing a great job for the Hawks and a good player to have for them.
Yeah, it was really a breakout season for him here, and happy that he finally got the award. Just want to say that on the last page, Hendricks, he is a Hawk. It was written on my sheet differently, so I didn't know if there was a trade that went down. So apologies to the Hawks. You had the two best.
It says Raids there, doesn't it?
Yeah, yes, it does. So the Hawks did have the two best defensive linemen this season. So congrats to them as a team.
Yeah, he's been a Hawk his whole career. He was the GM. All right, so good stuff. Happy to see the Hawks with that dominant defensive line there. And then everyone's favorite position, top kicker. So this is an interesting one. Mad Lad's won it before. McCormick is a younger guy. Mad Lad did hit. If I remember correctly, he hit every single kick this season when it comes to his field goals. If it wasn't every single one of them, yeah, it was. 100% field goal percentage. That's pretty good stuff. 98% extra points. I think he missed one extra point, 48 out of 49. Then you got McCormick, who honestly was not that much further behind. McCormick was 100% extra points, 22 of 22. I guess the Yeti didn't score that many touchdowns, and the Otters did. Here's what it is. Now, he missed 2 field goals. He was 28 for 30, but the 2 he missed, one was over 40 yards, and one was over 50. So, really, I mean, that's pretty close stuff. He kicked more field goals, and the only ones he missed were really fucking long. Mad Lad had a lot of those 20-yarders.
Yeah, and both these players are just phenomenal for their team. Clutch in just every aspect. I believe McCormick kicked the winning field goal for the Yeti's first one in 32 games. But these guys also couldn't be more different. Mad Lad logs in like every 2 seasons to update. And Mystical, most of you guys know him as Infinite MPG and one of the better graphic designers on the site.
Well, let's see what the voters decided. All right, there it is. I'm happy to see that, honestly. I think he works his ass off, and it had really a fantastic season, and I'd argue he had a better season than Mad Lad easily by looking at the stats. Missing a couple long kicks, that's not a big deal. He did not have a good of an offense around him and did a great job.
Yeah, and last season he was absolutely perfect, didn't miss an extra point or field goal. And then this season, I mean, still just missing 2 field goals. He's been phenomenal for the Yeti, and hopefully he continues this into the future.
Yeah, I hear Dean Jackson has a poster of him on his wall.
Dean Jackson probably has a lot of posters of better kickers on his wall.
Yeah, it must be tough. And then we've got the top punter. I didn't know this was an award.
Yeah, so we got an award for both a kicker and a punter. yet no award for kick returners. I'm definitely not salty at all.
Yeah, you'll be fine. So, I'm just going to pull up some quick numbers here. So, McCormick had the longer average punt, 49.3, Turkleton 46.6, but Turkleton had 18 inside the 20 out of 93. McCormick had 12 inside the 20 out of 92. So, McCormick had average longer punt. Turkleton was more likely to pin him deeper. I don't know. Man, flip a coin. Kickers are already and punters are already random enough in this league as it is. This could go either way.
Yeah, and for Mike Scholl's work as a punter this year, it might be considered a comeback player because the past 2 seasons he was the absolute worst in punting average, and this year he's the top guy. But Turk, he's been absolutely phenomenal his whole career, very consistent and consistently at the top of the league in both kicking and punting.
Let's see what the voters decided. Turkleton, all right. So voters look like they like that precision of Turkleton getting inside the 20 right there. Ooh, I love that render too.
I mean, the render's all right, but no, Turkleton has been amazing. And obviously, the precision is what's so great about punters because if you kick it into the end zone, you're losing 20 yards right there from the touchback. So if you lose a couple of yards on your average punt, but you can nail it inside the 5, it really sets up the defense in a nice position every time.
Yeah, Turkleton's been a real fantastic player since season 1 in this league, and I think the Hawks are really happy to have a person like Raven on their team. And McCormick going to be that same kind of player, I think. A few seasons. All right, so we are down to just the Pro Bowl rosters, and that is just about it. So the Pro Bowl for the ASFC, in case you don't know, that is the Otters second line, Arizona, and San Jose. And there you go. Lots of names, nice and small. Let's see if we got any big names in there. Obviously, we got Smallwood in the back with Reg Mackworthy backing him up. We got Boss and Maximus. Man, it sucks to see Bronco didn't make it, but fantastic guy. Wide receivers, we got Atwell, we got Law, we got Westfield and Crush. Corners, we got King and Spectre. Linebackers, let's see. Winchester, that asshole. Some Sharpay, some Mason Brown. Wozy making it on the defensive line, good stuff. Oaks, of course, making it at safety, can't go wrong with that. And special teams, we got Jackson and Weston as returners, and Mad Lad as kickers and punters.
Yeah, you can never go bad with 2 Mad Lads. I think Brad, Chad, and Thad would agree with that. The more ads, the better. But yeah, Fuego Wazi, great stuff this season, and he's on his kind of last season tour right now with the second line, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, second line.
Yeah, so he's hoping to grab a ring before he retires, as he's kind of been the cursed player throughout the NSFL so far.
Yeah. Oh, look, they put honorable mentions down there at the bottom for me. O'Sullivan didn't make it, but fantastic. Love that player. Crindy doing well. Floggety didn't make it at safety. Is Floggety in the ASFC? I thought he was in the NFC. Oh well. Joshua at DE. So good stuff all around. Really good players.
Yeah, all the honorable mentions, they got at least 2 votes in the Pro Bowl, so good stuff all around.
Gotcha. And in the NSFC Pro Bowl. All right, we got Owen Taylor at running back. Not surprised about that. Avon Bloxdale at the quarterback. Ended up getting the win over Matt Axelson, but man, fantastic season. We got Trey Willie, Fox North, and Eric Kennedy. Alexander Leclerc is backing up Willie. McPoyle and Alto. I'm surprised McPoyle's ahead of Alto there. Of course, we got Dermott and we got Delacour. Man, those are 2 fantastic corners. Two of the best of all time. In the middle, Pierno and Miller, the 2 Yeti. A Sippy on the outside with Hendricks, the 2 Hawks. Boss Tweed right there in the middle, shutting him down. Jalen Lee, Austin Ronick on the outside. Hardrule at safety. And then we got McCormick and Turkleton kicking, being returned by Leclerc and Kennedy.
Yeah, and this was mentioned earlier. but the Rays actually have three special teams kick returners this season, just because of how the votes all worked out with Cook, Kennedy, and Lavelle, which is surprising because you usually have one top guy and one backup, but these guys all phenomenal this season.
Yeah, yeah, good players. I forgot to see that Robbie Rainey also in the backfield for Pro Bowl. Hey, you gotta have a speed back and a power back, and he's your goal line guy. But yeah, great players. I love to see these teams, and probably one of my favorite seasons I've seen in a while.
Yeah, definitely, and hopefully it just keeps getting better from here on out.
I think it will. I think that's the end of this show here. Yep, out of slides. So thank you everyone for joining us and who's still sticking around. Thank you everyone, all the players and especially all the GMs who are helping these guys out. DSFL guys and your GMs are doing great too. Head office, all the people doing jobs. Sap for joining me here, and Adam and MPG who helped put this presentation together. Man, this league is a group effort, and it's been a really fun season.
Yeah, phenomenal job all around. TC, you're amazing at just everything you do. But get ready for the draft tomorrow. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be better presentation than last year. So get hyped.
Yeah, I think some asshole like me is still going to be presenting it, so sorry.
Hey, you got a voice for the radio. So just keep doing what you do. Everything you do is great.
Right on. All right, guys. So we are done. Again, thank you, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow night.